Coming up
Yeah.
on 52.
You're coming up on 52 on All
Yeah.
Saints Day. Now, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever, like when you were younger, realized it was All Saints Day? And did
Oh, I
that
knew
have
that my whole life.
and did that
It
have
wasn't
any
until a little.
Oh,
Go ahead. Well, I was
it
just
did
going to say it wasn't until a little bit later that I realized my birthday was the actual holiday.
aha. So, anyway,
Yeah. So
happy almost 52nd
thank you.
birthday. Now, do
Thank
you
you.
feel a year older or a decade older or anything?
Decade.
Decade.
Yeah. Um, from COVID to God
COVID.
damn it, every time I think I put everything on silent, it's not. And then I go and miss all kinds of calls because I thought it was on and it was not ringing. From COVID to leaving the government to moving here to Moby passing away, um, Zach. I mean, that was a good thing, but I mean, still, his case managers suck. Um, if it was about that, like as a business, I would never be a foster parent in Florida. I'm very happy with adopting Zach. He's not the issue at all.
Mhm.
But
The
I mean,
process, the
the
procedure,
process,
the
the
red
lies,
tape. Mm,
the red tape again. Yeah.
mhm.
To do this as a business the way some people do is not worth the whole doing God's work thing that they say they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if they were, they'd be putting the money they were getting back into the kids and not into whatever it is they put it into.
But
But I mean,
let's
the whole time, yeah,
yeah.
I'm older. Yeah, definitely.
You've been
From
through it. Is that right? So we should give you some
well,
toxic positivity
yeah,
phrases
you know
like
what?
that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Is that right?
Yeah, it certainly is, but it's also kicking my ass at the same time. They don't tell you that part.
Yeah, I understand.
Um,
But let's talk a little bit about the birthday. Let's talk a
okay.
little bit about your history. What are of gifting, shall we say? How do you celebrate your birthday? There you go. That's where I want to start. How do you celebrate your
Well,
birthday? How does one
I think
celebrate one's birthday?
not being a kid anymore, I used to look at getting birthday gifts and Christmas gifts as almost like a business.
Yeah,
Like, how did I
and
do
what?
this year?
Yeah, now, yeah. Now, so, what do you remember from your youth? What do you remember from your young adulthood?
The one, well, I guess, I mean, mom's had like family parties and shit, but
Hmm.
the one big birthday party, I think, was when I became a teenager. It was in the basement of Good Shepherd Church downtown, the top of the hill
Okay.
there.
Yep.
And at that time, it's where my mom and the other aerobics instructors from the Y practiced aerobics. They would have a class together and they would take turns teaching and going through all kinds of new dances and whatever. And so mom couldn't make it that night, but she had to stop by and talk with some of the instructors while we were going out trick or treating as kids.
Okay.
And so we thought, well, mom, they were like, okay, well, why don't you just, go in dressed as I was Dracula. And I think Randy was like Gene Simmons and from
Oh
Kiss.
my gosh. Yeah.
And I don't even know if Ryan was even, yeah, he would have been because Ryan's less than 10 years younger than me. So he would have been, at least a baby or something. And mom and dad are like pushing me down the steps, like for me to go first.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I got this rubber mask of Dracula on. I look nothing like Dracula, and um, and I was the only Dracula in black corduroy pants. Um, and I'm going down these steps, and it's dark. I've
Uh,
been to my mom's aerobics classes before, They don't do it
Mm-hmm.
in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I get there's like I remember you go down steps and then there's like a landing and you go down some more steps. And I make it to the landing and these kids dressed as trick or treaters, pop out, from behind the wall in the doorway, and then they crawl
Mm-hmm.
back in. And I'm turning around going, there's people down here and they ain't your aerobics instructors. And so, as it turns out, as you're figuring out by now, it was a surprise birthday party for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I spent the whole night, having to, because at this part, other parts of the country, you just go on Halloween and that's it.
Okay.
And the kids go trick or treating. The oldest in the family has to, look out for his little younger siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And mom and dad stay home to receive other trick or treaters. Where it's like a week celebration.
Mm-hmm.
You go out trick or treating to
Mm-hmm.
people mostly that you know,
Right.
and they guess who you are if you got a decent enough costume.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing is you got to try to make them take all night to guess who you are. But then some nights you got to strategize to stay home so you can get trick or treaters.
Right.
And so you can guess who they are. And I spent the whole night at this whole party, sitting there trying to figure out who all these goddamn kids were. I had no idea they were coming in the first place. And, I'm standing there guessing who these kids are.
That
And
is so stressful because they're thinking,
like,
how can you be so stupid, right?
yeah, so I finally finish because they all give up and just start ripping their masks off.
Right. Right.
And it's time to go home. The party was
Oh,
over.
oh
I
my.
had no idea. There was a pile of gifts.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had no cake or anything. So they hurriedly, I think that's when they may have I know mom's not going to leave without singing happy birthday to me. So I know that was done at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember the whole party being me sitting on the stage in the basement of
Trying to guess.
Good Shepherd Church, trying to guess who all these kids are, and I'm going through like cousins and mom must have put like an ad in a newspaper because there were all kinds of kids I don't see regularly.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah, that
How
was my one that
fun.
was
That was
partied
one.
out.
I see.
You
I
lived
see.
around the
Well,
country too. Did you see the differences in like how Halloween is celebrated?
you mean in Colorado when I lived in Colorado? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
So is it right? Right.
No.
Is it
No.
was it
At
all
that
one night and that's it?
yeah, no. At that point we were adults and managing the apartment house where we lived, and so there was really no trick or treating that I was aware of. But I have, I really don't have any good memories from my own childhood about trick or treating, but I have a couple as an adult. First of all, my children know and repeat always at this time of year, Mommy hates Halloween.
You said that
Because
last week. Yeah.
did I explain that
Yeah.
last time? Mommy hates
No,
Halloween.
I don't think you explained the whole thing.
Okay, well,
No, it
it's
had something
just
to do with teaching and making everybody happy during the day,
day,
and you
right?
just want to come home. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, being expected with little kids to go out again at night. I mean, it was an exhausting holiday and I just really hated it. But never mind. I can remember one time we did go out and take the kids and we went to Gordy Schmoyer's house. Do you remember Gordy Schmoyer? He's a dry
Yes.
cleaner.
From
And he used to
yeah,
come to our,
because that was right aside of Pop Up's barbershop.
there you go. Anyway, yes. So Gordy Schmoyer used to come to our house to pick up dry cleaning, and he was friendly with the kids, and he'd come and he'd see my son, and he'd say, "I bet you want to come home with me, don't you?" This was not Halloween necessarily. This was just Gordy Schmoyer, and and he said, "I bet to Jeff and Amy, I bet you guys want to come home with me." And so Paul ended up, it was just so funny because Paul ended up saying to Paul, "I guess you'll want to pick them up later." And Paul responded, yeah, but it'll be late. So it was just a funny moment that, Paul decided. And he's really funny sometimes. Sometimes he's really funny. Quickly, yeah, but it'll be late. And I love that. But
Yeah, yeah.
another fun time of Halloween was with our friends Charlotte and Roy. And they had called and said they were coming over. It was like during Halloween week when trick-or-treaters would come and whatnot. And so we knew where they were coming. And I said to Paul, let's get dressed in something and go down the street and pretend when they come that we are trick-or-treaters. And so we put masks on, and when we saw them coming, we approached the house, and they and we were on the porch at the same time, right? And Roy is ringing the bell as if to say, we're here now. And Paul and I there in our costumes and so forth, we waited a while, and ended up turning the doorknob and walking in the house. And our friends, Roy and Charlotte, were like, wait a minute, you can't do that. Anyway, that was a funny thing. That was a funny trick-or-treating night. Another trick-or-treating night was with Roy and Charlotte again. We decided to go trick-or-treating as adults. And so we went to all the people that we knew. We went to a variety of different people that we knew. And we decided it was not tricking, but we expected to be treated. And so we got to each house and we ran through a bunch of holiday songs. We did a Christmas song. We did an Easter song. Here comes the, bunny, the cottontail. And we did, I think we did a Valentine's thing and maybe an Irish song of some kind, but then folks were supposed to invite us in and give us a little treat, a little adult beverage,
Yeah.
And it was just a fun way to spend Halloween. So that's what we did.
That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we did for Halloween. And those are the memories that I have as an adult. Trick-or-treating. So anyway, that was good.
One of the shows on Yergz Radio did their live show for the week last night, and I'm sitting there kind of babysitting the feed to the radio, and I'm listening to everything that they're doing and talking about their Halloween stuff. And the one girl talks about, well, we didn't do this during Halloween, but we did it during Christmas. We would kidnap the baby Jesus from the local church display, the nativity scene.
Yeah.
And we would leave a note saying that you get the baby Jesus back with after a box of Twinkies.
Twinkies.
And,
Okay.
And keep in mind that, so at this point I've already decided I'm going to run to a Halloween store because they're all decked out in, whatever costumes for the night. And it's not my show, so I just kind of sit backstage and monitor the phone system. When callers call in, I connect it to them also, and I make sure that they're going out over the radio. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, everything's fine. They're on with a caller right now who's one of the cast members who couldn't make it. So I'm going to run to the Halloween store and get it's over there. I should actually have it on now too. If this is our Halloween episode, it's a big black wig, and I got one of my pairs of sunglasses, and I showed back up as Howard Stern.
I know, that sounds like Howard. Yes. Did you bring the vocabulary too?
Well, a little bit, yeah, because I couldn't get anything to work, so of course that set me off cussing.
Yes.
But she's the whole time I'm listening to them on the radio from my car, and she talks about this, kidnapping the baby Jesus and getting a box of Twinkies in return. Well, fast forward to her adult life. Mm-hmm. She's confined to a wheelchair. She's a one-leg amputee, and she's diabetic. So when
Wow.
I come back on as Howard Stern, I go, "You're the only terrorist that kidnaps the baby Jesus and gets diabetes in the process." And everybody just starts cracking up laughing.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So let me ask you this. I mean, moving from you had wanted to talk about scary moments. I assume
Yeah,
you
sure.
have things that frightened you. I assume you have a couple of things to share.
Yeah, we had already in our very first episode talked about September 11th. I mean, that was what what Hurricane Idalia made me realize. And one event when I was in the Caribbean at my one place or my only place in Belize, I almost drowned. And
Oh.
one thing that helped me realize what gets through critical moments versus what makes them more painful is the speed at which they happen. On September 11th, by the time we all found out about it, it was almost already over.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In that, one, and then soon after, two planes were into the World Trade Center. Soon after that, into the
Pentagon. Mm-hmm.
to the Pentagon, and soon after that, I have theories, but officially, the crash of the flight in Shanksville.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but waking up that Wednesday morning
Mm-hmm.
and looking out these windows and seeing water just slowly creeping up towards the house.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably, and knowing at that time it was low tide
Yep.
and that we have like a 4 foot change in tide here.
Yep.
Um, that was probably, one of the scariest moments of my life when, I've got my son here. He's still knocked out in bed. Uh, Moby and Anton's ashes are in the house. Other very, they say that, get out, you can replace everything that's there. No, there's things here that can't be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
My original badge that I carried with me for 21 years. The, historical things that I have. And their Moby and Anton's remains.
Mm-hmm.
That's not replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so trying to get things like that to the highest point of piece of furniture in preparation for what's to come.
Because you're
And
looking at the entire Gulf,
yeah,
right?
I'm on the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you're
And
looking at the entire Gulf inundating everything that you
what,
own.
yeah, what saved us here, so, me and handful of my neighbors specifically, is that by comparison to other houses in our neighborhood, we're at altitude.
Mm-hmm.
We're at like 7.5 feet above sea level,
Mm-hmm.
where some of these other houses were at, 4 or 5 feet above sea
Yeah.
level.
But
And there's people that,
your mom told me that next time you're leaving.
yeah, yeah, because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I can take Moby and Anton with us. They're in small boxes.
Right.
Um, or they were on up on a shelf, on a top high enough shelf that,
Yeah.
I had no water in the house anyway, because that's where it stopped. And
That's amazing.
that's what was the benefit, was that, as we're watching the storm develop and eventually ultimately approach, um, it moved farther and farther west, or as they say on the map, to the left,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, further out
Yeah.
into the Gulf,
Right. I
which
understand.
means the arms were less and less covering us.
Right.
That doesn't really mean too much, considering that by the time it was due west of us, or even approaching us, still somewhat to our, west southwest, it
Mm-hmm.
was already a Category 4 hurricane.
That's
That's as
amazing.
second biggest as they get.
And I
Um,
obviously don't live on such a precarious uh, position in the universe. But one of my fears, as everybody who knows me knows, is that when we have flooding here in New Berlinville, I mean, the creek that runs through our yard
yeah,
overflows regularly. And the
Yeah.
other side that the house isn't on, the other side of the creek always turns into a pond. I mean, that's a regular thing that happens. But when it continues to flood, and I have photographs of this, was just horrible. But when it continues to flood, after an hour or so, then the other side that the house is on, that also turns into a pond. And my pool turns into part of that pond. Yes. So you were talking about, about losing things of value and that being a frightful thing for you. And
Yeah.
I shared also that when it floods in my yard, I am an absolute mess. And Paul has to tell me to settle down and so forth. But we've got these flood barriers that are around the pool. And as soon as it starts raining some days, I worry that the pool is going to be flooded, because it took him like about a week the last time the pool flooded to clean it up. Now, the good news was, he said to me, I had scheduled to visit my cousin in Massachusetts, and he said, just go. I will take care of this. When you get home, it'll be all good again. And it was. So he was really good about that. But I thought maybe we could talk about things that maybe weren't quite so serious about scaring us. And one of the things that scares me, that terrifies me, besides getting this lens tomorrow, but one of the things that terrifies me is heights. I mean, even
Yeah.
even when I watch a TV program and they're on a high place, it goes through me. I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. And so people who talk about jumping out of planes, it's like, oh my God, why would you do that? But heights are really, those are scary things for me. The other thing
Do you remember Andy Trout?
I remember Andy Trout. Yes.
He went skydiving on many occasions, actually.
My son did once, and I did not discourage him, of course, because one doesn't do
Yeah, why
that
waste
to
your breath, right?
20-year-olds. Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly, waste
Yeah.
of breath. But I can't tell you how thrilled I was when he said, I'm on the ground. I'm still
and
alive. I can't remember what
not
his message
splattered
was.
into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But my children, of course, are the scare. I mean, that's where my fear lives, and there's nothing to be done about it. And both my children have said, "Mom, please, we're adults. Don't worry about us." But it comes with the territory. You do
Oh yeah.
not.
And we
Yeah,
learned that.
yeah. And I mean, I know that my son went to California for almost a year, just during COVID, or right after COVID, the big
Wow.
COVID part. But he went to California and was there for about a year. And one night, I got a text from him. I texted him and said, "How you doing?" Just checking in, because I do that once or twice a week just to know what was going on. And he wrote back and he said, "I'm a mile west of Pittsburgh." Well, William Wordsworth has this poem, and one of the lines in the poem is, "My heart leaps up." And that's the experience I had. It was like, oh my God, he's almost home, as opposed to being
Yeah.
in California. I didn't know I missed him, but I guess I did. But what I wanted to talk about was a funny story. And one of the things, of course, I hate bugs. And I'm terrified. I'm terrified of bats. And that comes from a childhood experience, that I guess there was a bat in our house and my mother went absolutely wild. And so I have been eternally afraid of bats. And we occasionally have a bat in our house. And the last time we had one, I was in bed asleep and I felt this presence of something. And when I opened my eyes, I realized that there was a bat in the bedroom. Let me tell you, I got out of bed, ran to the bedroom door, closed it all but an inch or two, and yelled for Paul and said, "Paul, there's a bat in there with you." But I left him in there with the bat. Left him in the room with the bat. And I escaped, which I just think that's kind of funny. But those are my fears. Those are my fears. Pretty much. Okay. Heights,
Yeah.
bats, things happening to my children. I mean, there it is. There it is.
Yep. I same way with the heights. Um, I I don't even like I don't even looking out skyscrapers when I'm
Yeah.
up. I well actually let me rephrase. I can look out, but I can't look down.
Okay.
Like I can be standing on a cliff.
Yeah.
I can look out over the pretty scenery, won't bother me one bit. The moment I put my chin to my chest, I'm backing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It
what is it?
it's
There's a word for it. That there's a word for when you're in a high place that you want to jump. You want to go off the edge. There's a word for it. That
oh
feeling. And I've had that. That's why I have to back. That's why I have to back up. But that's a weird kind of thing. Anyway,
yeah no I don't yeah
we'll look
no,
that
I
up
mean
for next time.
even like at the Boyertown pool going off the high dive.
Oh, forget it. Yeah.
I've done it and I've been fine with it. Um, but it's so different when you're standing on the wall and you're looking at that's not that high, and then you get up there and you go, wow, this
Yeah.
is a drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so different from one to the other
Well,
that
I often like, hot air balloons, and they
yeah.
had one of those decades ago when my daughter was just a couple of years old. They had one down at the Liberty Park, and I thought, "Oh, that is so cool." And it was tethered
Oh yeah.
so that it wasn't going
Yeah.
anywhere. But, I grabbed her and held her and got on this balloon, and oh my god, I was a wreck. I did not know that when it went up, and I thought, I could never do this. This is not something I can do. I mean, heights just really bothered me. But okay, so that's fun. And I don't, I know that we're probably running a little long here, but I wanted to talk
We
about
got a bunch to add to it, so I don't even I think there's probably plenty of spots to edit out
good.
whatever we need
But
to just
I also wanted to talk about gifts
yeah.
coming up on your birthday. Are
Yeah.
Do you do gifting kind of things still as an almost 52-year-old?
Um, I'm sending a link to Zach to get me another, essentially one of these. It's I don't know if you can see, but
Yes, I
there's
can
kind
see
of
it. Yeah,
there. You see how
yeah,
there's some light coming through it.
I do.
Um, that is not as good of a quality as it's called. That foam is called a pop filter. For those
Okay.
listening on the audio only part, I took the foamy thing off the tip of my microphone and showed it to Jane through the camera that we use, and that's called a pop filter. So when I go, making
Yep,
a
yep,
P
yep,
sound or
yep.
a D sound, um, it muffles that out. But this one that comes with the microphone isn't as good as some of the others that you can get in the aftermarket. So
Gotcha.
I'm sending Zach a link that he can get me one in the and maybe even a different color instead of the traditional black. I might go with middle of the road purple or gay friendly purple.
There you go.
Um, can't
There you
get
go.
blue or red. Those are colors that are out because those
Yeah,
will put me on separate sides of the spectrum. But other than
yeah.
that, I really don't look for, a lot of, birthday presents or stuff like that anymore. Um,
Do you remember
like,
something from your youth that was, or younger years? Doesn't have to be youth. Maybe as a younger adult that was important to you. I just think it's
um,
interesting to know what people value. So that's what I'm asking.
I don't have it anymore, but I did for a number of years. Um, my small kitchen garbage can. I have another one now, and frankly, I don't know what happened to where at what point I let it go. But I had a small kitchen garbage can that was shaped like your traditional outside garbage can,
Okay.
and it was from a guy that I was dating. And he got me that with filled with some like other, like cologne and deodorant type stuff. but he got me the garbage can as like a gag gift, but also kind of a hint because it was for my trash mouth. I'm like,
Oh,
wow.
wow. So we here on both sides now should be impressed that there is no trash mouth here.
Today, give me a moment to start talking about Dan Bongino or the new Speaker of the House or something like that, and I'm sure I'll
Oh,
drop an F bomb or something.
and then there will be bombs. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, our
yeah.
family, I mean, I could do a whole episode on gifting in our family because my husband comes from a, let's say, impoverished childhood
You were
where there
saying,
weren't
yeah.
such things as gifts. And so he has always been very uncomfortable with gift giving. And so, to respect his position, we as a family, try not to do traditional, buy each other a sweater or, give each other a gift card and so forth and so on. But years ago, we developed a history of gifting that was kind of fun. And I remember, well, probably this is in our family, but one of my favorite stories about gifting is when he turned 30. I was pregnant at the time with Amy, my first child, and his office people decided to buy him as a gift. We had a party at our house, and we invited, of course, all his office people, and they chipped in and bought him a stripper for the night.
You
Okay.
told me that before.
Now, it was kind of shocking, and yet it wasn't so bad because I didn't feel really any competition. She wasn't all that hot, shall we say. So it was fine. Anyway, they thought maybe it would take me into labor, the shock of having her there, but it wasn't that bad. But our family, I guess, Paul and when he first started his business, I mean, he started his business on, we had to take out a loan in order to buy groceries because I wasn't working at the time. I was pregnant and I was on a sabbatical from teaching, and he decided to start his business. So we had no money is the point. So that Christmas, he was busy at his place doing his work on Christmas Eve. And on Christmas Day, or on his way home on Christmas Eve, he stopped at the local drugstore and bought a set of decorative holiday soaps that had little mice on them. And they were wearing Christmas hats. And that was my Christmas gift that year. But interestingly, I had found for him on some website somewhere and ordered I ordered soap dishes that were kind of cute. And it was kind of interesting that he gave me soap and I gave him soap dishes. Who knew that would be the
Nice.
case? But probably the first time that we had fun with gifting was deliberate fun with gifting was the year that, again, I mean, we didn't have a lot of money and he was working hard and trying to make a living and all that. But he lost a hubcap on the car that he was driving at the time. And we did not want to spend the $25 to buy a new hubcap. Okay. And so for Christmas, that was his Christmas gift. I ordered a hubcap from the dealer, and he was so thrilled with the hubcap that it hung on our wall as a piece of art for about 6 months before he put it on the car. So that was one, but there are hosts of, and like I said, I could take up a whole episode because I love to talk about our gifting history. My kids, generally speaking, for the past 10 years or so, I will buy them a bag of some kind or a bin of some kind, and I will fill it with toilet paper and paper towels and soap and cleaning products of one kind or another so that they can then use their money to buy whatever it is they want. So that's kind of the way we do that. But probably my favorite gift that, probably most of my friends know about was the year that Paul put in an in-ground pool in my yard. I love my pool. My yard is an
Wow.
oasis. is an oasis for me.
Nice.
I don't have to go anywhere because I just love being in my yard. And the reason for that kind of was, I mean, he knew I always liked pools, right? And back in the day, his busiest season was in the summertime. And there was no way he could even leave the house for a vacation. And of course, as a teacher and my children, that's when
You're
we
off.
could vacation, right?
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
decided that he needed to make my backyard a vacation place. And so he put in an in-ground pool and, landscaped it and did all those beautiful things so that I would never want to leave. And, he was successful at that. But that year then that he did that for me, what I ended up doing was I bought a whole box of Christmas bows, that they sell with Christmas paper and all that kind of stuff. I bought a whole box of Christmas bows, wrapped it up. And when he opened it, I said, if you think you ever need to give me another gift for Mother's Day, for Valentine's Day, for birthdays, for anniversaries, whatever, just throw a boat in the pool because that is my gift of a lifetime. So I think
Oh,
that's kind of inspiring, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah.
Of course, he complains now that I ended up using all the bows for other people's gifts over the years, and he no longer has that box. But nonetheless, that's kind of that's my story about gifting. So
Very good. Yeah. It was the funny thing for my family about gifting was mom was always big about like she was recycling before recycling was a thing.
yep,
But she was also um, reusing, I guess. So
okay,
if wrapping paper was in a good condition,
mm-hmm.
um, it was given to Susie. If if bows were always reused from one Christmas to a birthday or to wherever, it was, and we would leave with just as big of a bag after the party
Right,
as when we came to a Christmas party or a birthday party or whatever.
right,
But yeah, that was that was her and I think she still has the one. Mom and Dad's house now is a log cabin that almost kind of looks like a barn,
mm-hmm.
and where on the second floor where the roof is also the wall, there's a vertical part of the wall that creates like a crawl space
Mm-hmm.
against the very smallest edge of the roof. And I know she's got a section up there just for gift wrapping stuff that uh, probably wrapping paper that's 30 years old that's just been on a roll. And well, it's time for Christmas. We should go get wrapping paper. And, there's 30 years of wrapping paper upstairs that we're just going to
I
collect.
understand. I understand. I understand. Well, we do get into a material obsessive state of mind at this particular time of the year, so it's a really tough
Yeah.
time. Well, listen, what are
Yeah.
you planning? What are you planning for this? What are you planning to celebrate? What are you planning this year?
Well, actually, I didn't use time wisely. Um, while you were on the phone earlier and we paused, I was clowning around on Facebook and whatever. And so when we sign off, I'm going to finish booking my flight for Thanksgiving
Oh, yay!
and be getting up there to help you with some tech issues. And the is that like the microphone that you tried to use today? Was that like a desktop mic?
I don't
The
know.
Is that
It,
when we were having issues connecting earlier? Was that the mic you told me about that you bought for
this one.
podcasting and whatever?
This is what it is.
Um, Let me switch screens. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll figure that
And
out and we'll get
and I
that
used
function.
it like the last time we recorded. I used it. I don't know why it didn't work for us this time. So
Did
anyway,
you? I don't remember you not having your earbuds though.
I didn't use them at all last time.
Okay. Huh.
So maybe I just
Well, we'll
needed to
figure it
shut
out.
down my computer or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, that it's when it detects something like that, when it knows that that mic is plugged in, um, it might be set that it forces you to use another set of headphones or something. So
okay,
we'll get that figured out, and
we'll figure it out.
it's not hard. Um,
Okay,
so
so I
we
think
never
that's it.
introduced ourselves
I
today, so
know.
now we
I'm
do a
Jane
little better
Stahl,
saying goodbye. And I'm Yergz. And
and this
where can we
is.
find you?
You can
Both sides
find
now.
yes, on both sides now. You can find me on my own podcast called Be Inspired, and on a variety of platforms on your favorite podcast platform. That's where you can find me. Okay,
And also in the
Oyotown
I
Area
actually just saw
Expression.
yeah, I just saw Craig's essay in that today.
Yes,
In
that's
the
right.
email anyway. Yeah.
That's right.
Um, and then also at Studio B.
There you go. Yep, a lot of
Looking forward to
places. And
seeing that.
you?
Oh God. Best place to find me, and you can learn about it all at one spot, is at yergz.com, yergz.com. You can learn about, of course, both sides now. Up the Middle is my solo podcast, the political side, my radio show, Yergz Tonight, and I think that's it. Doggy Traders is coming back soon. But definitely Yergz Radio is taking off. It's an internet radio station where you can hear Jane, actually, and so many other podcasters in replay and also live. So that's something we'll have to talk about. We've been, with the exception of recording today, we've actually been pretty religious with when we record our weekly episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably maybe think about combining that and just going live when we record.
We could do that. We could
We
do that.
didn't do that originally because we were worried about schedules and
Yeah.
not wanting to be tied down, but let it go for a few more weeks and maybe in season two or
Okay.
something like that, whatever.
Sounds
If we
good.
find that this is definitely our usual day is definitely a good time, think about it and see what happens.
All righty, buddy.
All
Have
right.
a
Well,
good
then,
day. Have a happy birthday. I'll be
thank
thinking
you.
about you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And planning on seeing you soon. And in other news, a little bit later today when we do our other episode for the week.
Yes. And let me know, text me and let me know when I should be with you. Okay.
Good, we'll do. All right.
Take care.
All right, my dear. See you soon.